In the vastness of space, there were countless species, each with its own unique abilities and cultures. Among them, humans had always been considered young and unrefined. But no one could have predicted the strength of will that humanity carried. And that strength was about to be tested. It started on the planet Sci-Fi, a rocky world far from Earth. The Galactic Council, a powerful group of alien species, had accused humans of violating an agreement made years earlier. It was a misunderstanding, but the Council wasn't one for mercy. They believed that the human soldiers had crossed into Zelfar's borders intentionally, even though it was a mistake. Despite the humans' attempts to explain, the Council wasn't interested in listening. They captured the soldiers, 5 of them, and brought them to their prison, hidden deep in the Council's space. The human soldiers, part of an elite team, were skilled and brave, trained to handle any challenge thrown at them. However, nothing could prepare them for what they faced in the hands of the Galactic Council. The soldiers, though captured, were far from broken. Their leader, Sergeant James Carson, stood tall despite his hands being bound. He had seen countless battles, faced enemies that were much stronger and larger than him, but this was different. The aliens of the Galactic Council were powerful, and their technology far outmatched anything humans had. Still, Carson had one thing the Council underestimated: the human spirit. As they were pushed into their cells, the soldiers exchanged looks, their eyes saying everything words couldn't. They weren't afraid. They knew what was coming: interrogations, threats, and maybe worse. But they also knew that they had a job to do. They couldn't let anything slip. The secrets they carried, military tactics, advanced technology, and strategies, were worth far more than their lives. Inside their cells, the soldiers were given barely enough food to stay alive and enough water to keep them from passing out. The lights above were harsh, and the air smelled of metal and antiseptic. It was clear the Council wanted to break them, to force them to speak. But the humans held strong. They knew their comrades back on Earth were working hard to find a way to get them back, and they trusted that their country would never abandon them. The alien guards watched from a distance, clearly unsure of how to treat the humans. They had never encountered a species that refused to beg for their lives. Most species, when captured by the Council, would immediately give up their secrets to escape suffering. But not humans. They endured, silently, even as the hours stretched into days. The leader of the Council's prison division, a towering figure named Tyrell, watched the humans from behind a glass panel. He was puzzled. In his many years of service, he had never seen prisoners act like this. They were supposed to be weak, just like all the other species they had captured. But these humans were something else. They showed no fear, no desperation. It was as if they had accepted their fate, yet their resolve remained unbroken. "Cyril, what do you make of them?" asked a Council officer standing beside him. "They are unlike any species we've encountered." Cyril replied, his voice cold but curious. "They don't beg. They don't scream. They don't even fight back. It's almost unsettling." The officer looked at the soldiers, their faces calm and unwavering. "Do you think they know something we don't?" Cyril didn't answer immediately. His mind was racing. These humans had something deep inside them, something that made them different, and he intended to find out what it was. The next morning, the interrogation began. The soldiers were taken one by one into a sterile room where an alien interrogator waited. The soldiers were told to sit in metal chairs, their arms and legs shackled. The alien, a cold-looking creature with translucent skin, began asking questions. They wanted to know everything about Earth's military tactics, its weaknesses, and its plans. But the humans stayed silent. Not a word, not a single movement of fear. They were determined to protect their home and their comrades. Carson knew that if he said anything, it wouldn't just cost him his life. It could endanger everyone on Earth. Hours turned into days, and the pressure grew. The soldiers endured every trick the Council could throw at them. They were given no sleep, no food, and little water. The lights were kept on at all hours, and the sound of mechanical machines echoed in the hallways. Yet the humans never broke. Why won't they talk? Hyrule muttered to himself as he watched through the glass. The humans' calm, unshakable faces were like a puzzle he couldn't solve. He had to admit it. He was impressed. Deep down, Hyrule knew one thing for certain. The humans were something far beyond what the Council had expected. And that, he feared, might turn out to be their biggest mistake. Back on Earth, the situation was being closely monitored. The news of the capture spread like wildfire. The soldiers who had been sent on the mission were not just ordinary troops. They were heroes. They had fought for Earth in numerous battles, each one victorious, each one bringing them closer to proving the strength and determination of humanity. Now, they were held captive in an alien prison, far from home, and every minute they remained in captivity felt like a direct insult to humanity. Earth's leaders had already started taking action, but they knew that this wasn't just about rescuing 5 soldiers. It was about sending a message that would reach the entire galaxy. Humanity wouldn't be pushed around. It wouldn't be silenced. General Maria Spencer, commander of Earth's military operations, stood before the Council of Earth's leaders in the war room. The air was thick with tension. Her face was stern, but her mind was focused. "We cannot allow this to go unanswered," General Spencer said, her voice firm. "The Galactic Council has crossed a line, torturing our soldiers, taking them as prisoners without cause. This is an act of aggression, and we cannot let it stand." The room fell silent as everyone processed her words. Some of the leaders, more cautious, glanced at each other. "But we're still a young species," one of them said, his voice unsure. "The Council is powerful. Their reach spans hundreds of worlds. If we retaliate, it could start a war we aren't prepared for." General Spencer nodded. She understood their concerns, but her resolve was unwavering. "I'm not asking for war, but we cannot allow this to go on. We will send a warning. A clear message that no one can touch our people without facing consequences." She turned to the communications officer at the far end of the room. "Send the message." With a few swift commands, the officer connected the Earth leaders to the Galactic Council. The screen flickered to life, showing a cold, imposing room filled with alien figures, leaders of the Galactic Council. Their faces were expressionless, their eyes narrowed with a sense of superiority. They had expected humans to beg, to show weakness, but they were about to be proven wrong. A single message was transmitted, simple yet powerful. "You have been warned. Release our soldiers. Stop your cruelty, or face the consequences." The message was direct, without fear, without apology. The humans were not pleading for mercy. They were warning the Council that their actions would not go unanswered. It wasn't an empty threat. It was a promise. On the other end, the Council's leaders reacted with a mix of confusion and amusement. They didn't understand why the humans weren't begging for their soldiers' release. After all, the other species they'd captured over the years had begged, cried, and promised to do anything for their freedom. But the humans, with their defiant silence and unyielding strength, were different. This irritated the Council. It was not just the prisoners they wanted to break. It was the human spirit itself. They couldn't fathom why humans resisted. Why didn't they fear them? Sorrel, the leader of the Council's prison division, stared at the screen. He was the one who had been overseeing the torture of the captured soldiers. His mind raced as he replayed the message over and over in his head. The humans hadn't shown fear. They hadn't even made threats. They had simply stated what they wanted, and they had done so calmly, without any signs of weakness. "They are making a mistake," said Cyril to one of his subordinates. "They think they can simply send a message, as if it will have an impact on us. They are foolish." But in the back of his mind, doubt crept in. The Earth message wasn't just a warning. It was a statement. The humans were prepared for something more. And that realization sent a small shiver down his spine. The council dismissed the warning with a laugh. They believed it was just a bluff, a trick to make them believe that humans were stronger than they actually were. But they didn't know the true strength of humanity. On Earth, the leaders knew that the message alone would not be enough. The council needed to understand that their threats were not empty. As the message was sent, military leaders on Earth went to work in secret. They had prepared for this moment for years, knowing that the galaxy might one day question the power of humanity. They had been working on technology that would give them an edge, technology that would make the council see just how wrong they were about humans. General Spencer looked out over the map of the galaxy, her eyes scanning the coordinates of the council's headquarters. She didn't plan to wait for them to respond. The message was just the beginning. Humanity had already set things in motion. Back on the council's side, Cyril's irritation grew. Despite their confidence, the message had left an impact. He didn't like being threatened, and he didn't like that the humans were acting as if they had nothing to lose. The idea of humans standing up to the mighty Galactic Council was something he couldn't tolerate. As he turned away from the screen, he muttered to himself, "They will regret this." But what Cyril didn't understand was that humanity had no intention of backing down. The Council had made a mistake, one that would soon echo through the entire galaxy. As the Galactic Council scoffed at the humans' message, they had no idea that Earth was already preparing for a response far greater than they could have imagined. General Maria Spencer wasn't one to make empty threats. She had known for years that humanity's time in the galaxy was coming. And now, she was ready to show just how far Earth's power reached. Back on Earth, the military had been busy working in secret. For the past several months, teams of scientists and engineers had been working tirelessly on a project that would change everything. It was a new kind of technology, something beyond anything the Council had encountered before. A weapon that could not only challenge the might of the Galactic Council, but potentially defeat it. The project, codenamed Project Phoenix, was designed to be humanity's final warning. The weapon was powerful, advanced, and could be deployed anywhere in the galaxy. The technology was a combination of human ingenuity and captured alien technology, carefully studied and improved. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a message that Earth would no longer be a passive player in the galaxy. General Spencer watched as the countdown began. The day had finally come. Meanwhile, back in the prison of the Galactic Council, the human soldiers remained strong despite the unrelenting pressure. Sergeant James Carson sat in his cell, his mind focused on one thing: his team and Earth. He knew that they would not be forgotten, that the people back home would do whatever it took to bring them back. But there was something more, something he felt deep in his gut. He had a sense that this wasn't just about saving them anymore. The situation was bigger than that. Earth was about to make its move. Carson's thoughts were interrupted when the prison door opened. An alien guard stepped inside, dragging a large metal crate behind him. Without a word, the guard set it down on the floor and unlocked the cage that held Carson. "Your people have sent their message. Now it's time for you to learn what happens when you disrespect the Galactic Council," the guard growled, before leaving the room and slamming the door behind him. Carson looked at the crate curiously. What could this be? His mind raced, wondering if it was some sort of trap. But when he opened it, he found something entirely different, something that made his heart race with hope. Inside the crate was a small device, sleek and compact. It was a communications device, something the humans had developed to secretly contact each other in case of emergency. Carson immediately realized what this meant. Earth was already acting. They hadn't waited for the Council's response. They were already moving. He quickly activated the device, and a familiar voice came through, calm and determined. "Carson, this is General Spencer. The operation is underway. We've deployed Project Phoenix. It's time to show the Council what happens when they mess with humanity." Carson's heart swelled with pride. This was it. Earth had sent their message, but now they were proving they meant it. The Galactic Council had no idea what was coming. Back in the council's headquarters, the leaders gathered to discuss the next steps after receiving the humans' bold warning. They had laughed it off, assuming it was a bluff. But as they sat in the council room, a strange feeling began to settle over them. There was something different in the air, something that made them uneasy. The humans were acting with confidence, with purpose, and it was unsettling. Suddenly, an alert went off on the council leaders' screens. They all looked at it, confused at first. Then, a message appeared. "This is the Earth Defense Command. Project Phoenix has been activated. Prepare for immediate consequences." The message was brief, but it was enough to send a shockwave through the room. The leaders exchanged worried glances. Was this the humans' next move? Had they truly unleashed something powerful enough to challenge the entire council? Before they could respond, an explosion of light and energy appeared on the edge of their galaxy, brighter than anything they had seen before. It was Project Phoenix. The weapon, designed to harness and amplify the energy of a star, was now in full effect. It wasn't a weapon meant to destroy planets. It was designed to send a signal that Earth was no longer weak and that it would defend its people at any cost. From the Council's perspective, the energy was overwhelming, a burst of power that was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It illuminated their space stations, causing a ripple of panic across their fleets. The energy blast didn't destroy anything, but it was a clear warning. Earth could reach them anywhere, anytime. And if they didn't release the human soldiers, they would feel the full force of what humanity could do. Cyril, the prison leader, watched in horror as the display filled his screen. He had underestimated Earth, thinking they were just another species to be controlled. But now he saw how wrong he was. This wasn't just a threat. It was a demonstration of what the humans were capable of. "Release the soldiers," Cyril muttered under his breath, his voice trembling. "Now." But deep down, he knew it was too late. Earth had sent its warning, and the Council had failed to listen. The question was no longer if the humans would fight back. It was when. Back on Earth, General Spencer watched the events unfold, a grim smile on her face. "This is just the beginning," she whispered to herself. "We won't stop until our soldiers are home." The explosion of energy from Project Phoenix rippled through the galaxy, sending shockwaves far beyond the immediate vicinity of the Galactic Council's territory. Across the stars, ships and space stations trembled, their systems malfunctioning as the immense power of humanity's message reached them. For the first time in a long while, the Galactic Council felt something they hadn't anticipated: fear. Back in the command center of the Council, the leaders sat in stunned silence. The immense display of energy had been overwhelming. It was as though the entire fabric of space had been stretched to its limit, just to show them what humanity was capable of. No one had expected this. The humans had no right to possess such power. No one did. Cyril, the leader of the Council's prison division, stood by a large, transparent window, looking out into the dark expanse of space. His mind raced. The humans were different. They were unpredictable. They had been underestimated. And now, they had done something no one in the Council had expected, something that changed everything. Their message was clear, Tyrell muttered, his voice a low growl. They have power, and they won't stop until they get what they want. One of his subordinates, a tall alien with silvery skin and dark eyes, stepped forward cautiously. "What should we do now, Leader Cyril? The humans, they're not like the other species we've dealt with. Their technology, it's beyond anything we've encountered before." Cyril turned to face the officer, his eyes narrowing. "We will respond in force. The humans will learn that they cannot threaten the Galactic Council and expect to walk away unscathed." He made his way to a massive control panel and began issuing orders. Fleet after fleet of ships, some large and heavily armed, others smaller and faster, were prepared to launch. But in the back of his mind, Cyril was uneasy. He had seen the power of Project Phoenix. He knew they could not afford to underestimate the humans again. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Spencer's team was preparing for the next phase. The first strike had been made, but they knew the Council wouldn't sit idly by. They were likely already plotting their response. Earth had to be ready. Spencer stood in a high-tech war room, looking at a large holographic display of the galaxy. The location of the Galactic Council's headquarters blinked ominously in the center of the screen. Her team of scientists, military strategists, and engineers worked tirelessly around her, preparing for whatever the Council might throw at them. "We've sent a message," General Spencer said to her team. "Now we wait. The Council won't take kindly to this, and we need to be ready for their retaliation." The message was clear. Earth wasn't afraid. Humanity had stood up and made its power known, but the Council was far from defeated. They would fight back. But Spencer knew something the Council didn't. Humanity had something they hadn't prepared for: unity. Earth's people had never been so determined to protect what was theirs. Back in the Galactic Council's chambers, the leaders were gathered once again. Tension filled the room. They had to act quickly, but they couldn't afford to make the wrong move. Hero paced back and forth, his mind working fast. He needed to do something that would make Earth back down. "We must show them that we are not afraid," Cyril said. "We will not bow to their threats. We will strike first and show them who is truly in charge." But one of the Council's senior members, a tall alien with 4 eyes and shimmering purple scales, spoke up cautiously. "Leader Cyril, I understand your desire for revenge, but these humans, they are different. We have seen their power. We cannot rush into this without considering all the possibilities." Cyril snapped, his eyes flashing with frustration. "We do not have the luxury of hesitation. If we do nothing, they will believe they have won. We cannot let that happen. Prepare the fleet. We will show Earth that we are not to be trifled with." As Cyril's words echoed in the Council chamber, the tension reached a boiling point. They were preparing for war, but deep down, some of the leaders feared the unknown. They had never encountered a species like humanity before. They had underestimated Earth's strength, and now they could feel the consequences of their miscalculation. The Council had never been afraid of conflict before, but for the first time, the idea of facing humanity seemed different. There was something unyielding about them, something they hadn't expected. Back on Earth, General Spencer and her team monitored the Council's movements closely. Every fleet, every ship, every movement was tracked, analyzed, and anticipated. Earth was ready. They had something that the Council didn't: the resolve to fight for what was theirs, no matter the cost. Spencer glanced at the holographic map again. "The game has changed," she said quietly, "and we won't back down." The clock was ticking. The war for the freedom of Earth's soldiers and the future of humanity was about to begin. The cold void of space felt heavier now. It wasn't just the weight of the unknown, but the pressure of what was coming next. Both Earth and the Galactic Council knew the conflict was inevitable. No one could back down now. The message had been sent, and the gloves were off. General Spencer stood before the holographic display of the galaxy, her gaze fixed on the movements of the Galactic Council's fleets. They were making their move, preparing to strike back. Every moment counted, and Earth's military was on high alert. "We've made it this far," Spencer said quietly, almost to herself. "But this isn't over. It's just beginning." The energy in the command room was palpable. Everyone knew the stakes, and they understood the risks. If the Council's fleets reached Earth or the human soldiers before the military was ready, it could be disastrous. But humanity had always thrived in the face of adversity. Now, it was time to prove that once more. Spencer turned to her trusted officer, Captain Roy Adams, who had been monitoring the Council's movements. "Captain, how much time do we have?" Adams, his eyes fixed on the screen, quickly analyzed the data. "Their fleets are moving faster than we anticipated, General. If they don't change course, they'll be within striking distance of Earth in a few hours." Spencer's brow furrowed. We can't wait that long. Activate the countermeasures. I want every system ready." Within moments, the room came alive with activity. Scientists, engineers, and military strategists worked in perfect harmony, readying humanity's defense. Every human on Earth was working toward a singular goal: survival. And they would fight for it, no matter the cost. Back in the Galactic Council's command center, Hyrule watched the screens in front of him. The humans had done something unexpected. They had forced the Council's hand. Now there was no going back. The fleets were already in motion, and Earth had made its threats clear. The Council had to act, or it would lose its credibility and control. But even as he watched his forces prepare, Hyrule couldn't shake the unease gnawing at him. He had always believed that the Galactic Council was the most powerful entity in the galaxy. They had crushed countless civilizations with ease. Yet this time, the humans were different. The energy from Project Phoenix had shown them that. They were resilient, determined. And now, they had technology that the Council had underestimated. "Are the fleets ready?" Hyrule demanded, turning to his chief officer, a large, hulking creature with 3 arms. "Everything is in position, Leader Hyrule," the officer replied. "We're just waiting for the signal to engage." Hyrule nodded, though his mind was clouded with doubt. He knew that the Council was powerful, but something told him that this war would not be like any other they had fought before. He didn't know if the Council could win this time. The humans had proven their strength, and he wasn't sure if it was too late to stop them. Meanwhile, on Earth, the clock continued to tick down. The countdown was growing shorter. General Spencer felt the weight of it pressing on her shoulders. Time was running out, but she had no intention of letting the Council reach Earth. Not now, not ever. "Activate the orbital defense grid," Spencer ordered. "We need to lock down every entry point. No fleet gets past Earth." Adams immediately sent the orders to the command center. Across Earth's space stations, powerful energy shields began to hum to life, enveloping the planet in a protective barrier. Earth was no longer defenseless. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity, but Earth had learned and adapted. At the same time, Spencer authorized the deployment of specialized fighter jets that could engage in rapid, high-speed combat. They were equipped with cutting-edge weaponry that would give Earth an edge in the coming battle. The human forces were preparing for everything. The Galactic Council's fleets, now within range, began to enter the final stretch toward Earth. The massive ships, sleek and formidable, surged forward with the might of 1,000 warships. Yet, as they approached, the feeling of invincibility that had once been the Council's hallmark began to fade. The Council had always relied on their superior technology to maintain control over the galaxy, but the humans had already shown they could challenge that dominance. Hyrule's heart raced as he observed the fleets moving closer. He had once believed that nothing could stand in their way. Now he wasn't so sure. "Prepare the weapons," Hyrule barked. "We strike first. Show them the price of defiance." But even as he spoke, the tension between the Council's members was palpable. Some of them were unsure. They had never faced a challenge like this. Their previous victories had been effortless. But now, the fear was creeping in. The humans were unpredictable. They had a resolve that the Council hadn't accounted for, and that made them dangerous. On Earth, General Spencer stared out of the command center window, her expression hardening. The fleets were nearing. Soon, the battle would begin. But she wasn't afraid. Humanity had been through too much to back down now. "We've prepared for this," Spencer said, her voice steady. "Now, we fight." The final moments before the battle felt like an eternity. Both Earth and the Galactic Council were prepared for what was coming, yet neither side fully understood how much this conflict would change everything. The fleets from the Council were closing in, their massive ships floating ominously in the dark expanse of space. Meanwhile, Earth's defenses stood firm, ready to protect the planet at all costs. General Spencer stood at the center of the command room, her gaze fixed on the holographic display in front of her. The countdown had ended. The time for talking was over. It was now or never. Humanity had proven its strength, but now they had to defend it. Activate the defense grid, Spencer ordered with a calm that masked the storm brewing inside her. We hold nothing back. All around her, officers and soldiers moved quickly, coordinating the final steps of Earth's defensive plan. Energy shields flickered to life, surrounding Earth in a protective web. Anti-aircraft systems were primed, and the fleet of fighter jets was readied for launch. Earth was as prepared as it could be. Captain Roy Adams watched as the holographic map of the galaxy showed the approaching Council ships. "They're in range, General. We're locked onto them." Spencer took a deep breath. "Do not fire unless they make the first move. We're not the aggressors here." Adams nodded and turned to his team. The moment of truth was upon them. Everything they had worked for had led to this point. Earth was about to face its greatest challenge, but General Spencer had no doubt about humanity's ability to rise to the occasion. They were more than ready to defend their world. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council's fleet continued its approach. General stood in the command center of the lead ship, his eyes fixed on Earth. The humans had put up a fight, but he believed it would be over soon. He had never faced such a defiant race. They had shown their power, yes, but Cyril still believed they would falter in the face of the Council's might. "Fire the first volley," Tyrell commanded, his voice cold and firm. The weapon systems aboard the lead ship hummed to life. Massive energy cannons aimed at Earth, ready to unleash their devastating firepower. As the first blast was fired, Tyrell couldn't help but feel a rush of confidence. The humans had no chance. The blast cut through space, hurtling toward Earth at an incredible speed. Back on Earth, General Spencer's eyes narrowed as the attack came into view. "Now," she shouted, signaling the defense systems to activate. The sky lit up with the brilliant glow of energy shields deflecting the blast. The impact sent a shockwave across the planet, rattling buildings and shaking the very ground beneath their feet. Yet the shield held firm, deflecting the blast with minimal damage. Cyril's eyes widened in disbelief. The shield had held. He had expected it to be obliterated. The humans were tougher than he had thought. "Impossible," he muttered, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. "General, their shield held," Captain Adams said, a note of surprise in his voice. "We've intercepted their first strike." Spencer's expression hardened. "They're not giving up that easily. Prepare to return fire." Earth's defenses had successfully repelled the first attack, but the Council was relentless. More blasts followed, each one more powerful than the last. Yet, Earth's shields continued to hold, and the fighter jets soared into the sky to meet the oncoming threat. They darted between the blasts, dodging fire as they targeted the Council's ships. The battle in space was fierce. The fighter jets launched missiles and laser blasts, striking at the heart of the Council's fleet. While the Galactic Council's ships were massive and heavily armed, Earth's fighters were fast and nimble, able to strike quickly before retreating into the cover of the planet's atmosphere. The battle raged in the sky, but Earth was not backing down. Back on the Council's flagship, Cyril clenched his fists. He had underestimated the humans, and now he could see the consequences. Their shields were stronger than expected, and their fighters were more effective than he had thought possible. He knew they had to act fast before the tide turned against them. "Prepare the second wave," Cyril ordered. "We will break them this time. We will not lose to these humans." But even as he spoke, doubt lingered in his mind. He had never faced an enemy like this before. The humans were resourceful, determined, and above all, united. The very qualities the Council had tried to suppress in other species were the same qualities that made humanity so powerful. On Earth, Spencer stood at the command center, watching the battle unfold. The first wave of attacks had been repelled, but the Council would keep coming. She knew this wouldn't be over quickly. They had only one option. They had to win. The stakes couldn't be higher. The future of Earth depended on it. "We're holding our ground," she said, her voice steady. But we need to push them back. We can't afford to wait for another attack. As the battle raged on, the people of Earth watched with a mixture of fear and hope. This was humanity's fight. The world stood united, ready to defend their home. And no matter how powerful the Galactic Council seemed, they were about to learn one of humanity's greatest truths. When pushed to the limit, humanity fought back with everything it had. The battle had raged for hours. Earth's defense systems were still holding strong, but the Galactic Council's fleet was relentless. The sky above Earth had turned into a war zone, filled with explosions, laser beams, and the constant hum of energy shields blocking the attacks. Humanity had shown its strength, but the Council was far from finished. General Spencer stood before the command center's massive display, her face hard as stone. The Galactic Council's ships were regrouping, preparing for their final assault. She knew this was the moment that would decide everything. Earth had to hold, or all would be lost. "We've held them off for this long," Spencer said, her voice steady despite the pressure. "But we can't afford to let up now. They'll come harder this time. We need to be ready." Captain Adams nodded, his face a mirror of her resolve. "We've taken down a few of their ships, but they got reinforcements on the way. We'll need more time to finish them off." "Then we give them that time," Spencer replied, looking out the window at the stars beyond. "I want every fighter in the air. All ships, prepare for the final push." Her command was followed quickly, and the fleet mobilized. Every resource on Earth was being put into the fight. The humans weren't just defending their home anymore. They were fighting for their survival. The message from the Galactic Council had been clear. They had attacked Earth, but they hadn't expected to face such fierce resistance. Now, they had no choice but to finish what they started. Zyril, on the flagship of the Galactic Council, watched as his fleet readied itself for the final assault. He could sense the desperation in his officers. They had underestimated humanity, and it had cost them dearly. But now, they would not make that mistake again. He clenched his fists, determined to wipe out the human threat once and for all. "Launch everything," Cyril commanded, his voice icy. "We take Earth now." Thousands of ships, their weapons primed, began to move forward. Their cannons glowed with deadly energy, ready to strike. This was the last chance for the Council to assert its power over the humans, and they wouldn't fail. Not again. Back on Earth, the human forces were ready. The battle was about to intensify, but the humans weren't afraid. They had stood tall against the Council's attacks, and they would continue to fight. Spencer paced the command room, her eyes focused on the massive screen showing the enemy fleet advancing. "We don't have the numbers they do," she muttered, "but we have something they don't. Our will. We won't back down." The fighter jets, piloted by Earth's best, took off in waves, ready to engage the oncoming enemy fleet. The energy shields around Earth pulsed brightly, holding strong despite the overwhelming firepower of the Galactic Council. Every human fighter knew this was their moment to shine. This was their final stand. The first wave of Council ships fired their weapons, sending blasts of energy hurtling toward Earth. The shields flickered, absorbing the attacks, but each blast shook the Earth's surface. The sky turned bright with flashes of light as missiles and lasers collided in a dance of destruction. Earth's fighters darted through the chaos, their pilots expertly evading the incoming fire. They struck back, their missiles finding their targets, taking down several of the Council's ships in a series of explosions. But the Council's forces were too many, and their weapons too powerful. The battle seemed hopeless, but there was one last trick up humanity's sleeve. Spencer had planned for this moment. She had been preparing the humans' ultimate weapon, a final surge of power that would push back the invaders. The human fleet may not have been as large, but they had one thing the Council couldn't predict: creativity and determination. "Now," Spencer barked, her voice full of command. "Activate the EMP grid." At her command, a massive pulse of energy erupted from Earth's core, flooding the surrounding space. The electromagnetic pulse spread out in waves, causing chaos in the Council's fleet. Their ships began to malfunction, their systems glitching, and many of their weapons went offline. The sudden disruption took the Council completely by surprise. Zyral's flagship was among the first to be affected, its weapon systems failing as the EMP waves surged through it. Ships around it faltered, and the advantage Earth had seemed so far away now seemed within reach. "They've activated the EMP," one of Tyrell's officers shouted in disbelief. "We're losing control." The Council's fleet began to falter, their power systems shorting out, leaving them vulnerable to the next wave of attacks. Earth's fighters pressed their advantage, their weapons locked on targets as they began to tear through the weakened Council ships. The tables had turned. Zyril stood at the heart of his flagship, his hands shaking. His fleet, once so confident, was now in disarray. He had underestimated humanity, and now he was paying the price. On Earth, General Spencer looked up at the sky, where the final stages of the battle were unfolding. The EMP had worked, and now Earth's forces were pushing forward. Humanity was winning, and the Galactic Council was retreating. The fight was almost over. "We did it," Captain Adams said, a smile crossing his face. But Spencer didn't smile. Not yet. There was still work to do. "Keep pushing," she said, her voice calm. "We finish this. For Earth." As the last of the Council's ships retreated, the skies above Earth began to clear. The war was over. The Galactic Council had learned a harsh lesson. Never underestimate humanity. And Earth had proven, beyond a doubt, that when pushed to the brink, humanity would fight back with everything it had. The message was clear. Earth was no longer a world to be trampled on. It was a world to be reckoned with.